From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Lexi Krupp. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, and here are today's headlines. People across Vermont are remembering Pope Francis, who died Monday at age 88. Bishop John McDermott of the Catholic Diocese of Burlington called the late pontiff, quote, a powerful witness to the mercy of God, the fraternity of all humanity, and especially to the need for us to care for those on the peripheries of society. Darlene Davis, a Catholic who lives in Rutland, says she was shocked and saddened to hear of the Pope's death.
He was a bright light, something positive for people to look to for hope, guidance, support.
A memorial mass for Pope Francis will be held at St. Joseph Cathedral in Burlington on Thursday, April 24th at 5:30. Senator Peter Welch says it's critical for Congress to extend telehealth services for all Medicare recipients. The use of both video and audio telehealth spiked after the COVID pandemic and have remained popular since then. The program is set to expire at the end of September, and Welch has built a bipartisan coalition of 60 senators to permanently extend it. Welch says the program has made it possible for patients to access specialized care that might otherwise not be available.
If you have a means of delivery that is effective and efficient, do it. And that's especially true, of course, in rural areas where the distances that we're traveling are difficult and also, sometimes in bad weather conditions, impossible.
Welch says he's optimistic about the bill's chances in the Senate, but he's concerned it faces a tougher review in the House. Also under tough review, labor negotiations are souring in Rutland City schools, where the school board has just rejected a fact finder's report. Board members argue the report was flawed and unaffordable for taxpayers. The union says the district's teachers are among the lowest paid in the region. Negotiations have been ongoing since the end of 2023, and the current contract expired last summer. Union President Sue Tannen has been working in Rutland schools for nearly 20 years. And while the district is no stranger to difficult contract talks, she said morale is worse than it's been in quite some time.
Spend 5 minutes on social media and you'll see our members talking about how hard they work. And it's great to have administration say we love our teachers and they do a great job, but, there's a point where you have to show it as well.
There's a 30-day cooling-off period where educators can't strike and management can't impose a contract. After that, Tannen says all options are on the table. And hunters that sent a tooth from their deer to Vermont Fish and Wildlife can now find out how old that deer was. The department received nearly 2,000 usable teeth from hunters last year, and their ages are listed on Vermont Fish and Wildlife's website. The oldest animals were 18-year-old does from Benson and Randolph. The oldest buck, killed in Grafton, was 11 years old. Coming up, in the next installment of our Earth Day series from the New England News Collaborative, looking for wild blue mussels, which have all but disappeared from New England's coastline. Some New Englanders still remember a time when you could walk the shores of a rocky cove at low tide and find plentiful clutches of blue mussels. But after an ocean heatwave in the Gulf of Maine about 10 years ago, the mussels started to disappear. By one estimate, mussels have declined by more than half along the coast between Cape Cod and Canada since the 1970s. Researchers are now trying to assess how many mussels are left and where they are. And mussel farmers are adjusting to a diminishing resource they thought would be around forever. As part of our Earth Day series with the New England News Collaborative, Maine Public Radio's Peter McGuire reports.
Carissa Morin says she hears all the time from people shocked by the sudden loss of wild mussels.
The mussel beds have been either disappearing or they haven't been able to find mussels where they usually have been able to find them for generations.
But what if mussels didn't actually vanish? What if they just moved further offshore in order to survive? On the gravelly shore of Mackworth Island in Casco Bay, Morin and a team from the Gulf of Maine Research Institute are on the hunt. She motions to a cove where researchers are using a marine drone to map out a large bed of mussels hidden below the water.
We are still finding them in these subtidal or deeper water areas. And these are locations that people wouldn't normally see unless you're there exactly at the right time on the right date within a 2-hour window.
Vast beds of blue mussels used to be common in the intertidal zone, the area between high and low tides. Today, they're mostly gone, and no one is 100% sure why. Overfishing, ocean acidification, and predation could all contribute. But a common theory is that water temperatures in the Gulf of Maine skyrocketed about a decade ago, and the green crab population exploded. Without harsh winters to keep them in check, the invasive crabs devoured everything in their path.
Green crabs love mussels. They're easily picked off. They don't have to burrow for them because they're sitting there on a rock or on some hard substrate.
Brian Beal, a professor at the University of Maine at Machias, says commercial landings of blue mussels were cut in half in the last 10 years. And Maine's mussel farms were also affected. The bivalves used to be so abundant that farmers could do well just from growing and harvesting wild mussels that settled on ropes suspended in the water. Beal says those times are long past.
When you compare today's settlement on those ropes to just 10 years ago, it's almost night and day.
Now the industry needs help from operations such as the Down East Institute, where Beal and others are growing mussel larvae in a lab and shipping them to farms such as Bangs Island Mussels on the Portland waterfront.
So this is the remote settlement facility.
Matthew Moretti points to shelves holding huge plastic tubs tucked into a corner of a warehouse. They're connected to a complicated water and feeding system for baby mussels, which are destined for his farms in nearby Casco Bay.
We take hatchery-reared mussel larvae, put it into tanks, and allow it to settle onto ropes that we then bring out to the farm.
Moretti says there was no need for this process or all that equipment when he started the farm 15 years ago. But he says he's doing what's needed to ensure his business can survive.
We are working pretty hard towards a future where we could, if we needed to, replace all of our wild mussel seed capture with hatchery mussel seed instead.
Back on Mackworth Island, Aaron Whitman from the Gulf of Maine Research Institute is guiding a marine drone that's on a search for submerged mussel beds. He says a better mapping of wild mussels could help farmers like Moretti plan for the future as the climate warms.
I feel like it's a win-win for mussel farms to know where these mussel beds are, and so they can harvest them, but they can also have an idea of where those mussel seeds are going while they're doing their harvesting.
And Whitman says the project will also gauge how the local ecosystem is doing overall. If it's doing well, he says, you'll see mussels. And if not, you won't see them. Or at least, not as many. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Peter McGuire.
That story is part of our Earth Day series, all this week from the New England News Collaborative. Today's episode was produced and edited by Liam Elder Connors. We had additional reporting from Nina Keck, Bob Kinzel, Lola Dufour, and Jen Jarecki. And our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Lexi Krupp. Talk to you tomorrow.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.